Has evolution been observed? The theory of evolution states that all living organisms descended from common ancestors, and the variations are explained by natural processes such as natural selection and genetic mutations. However, evolution has never been observed in action. All observations that neo-Darwinism relies on are either adaptations, mutations that never led to major changes in living things, or observations from historical events that can also be used to prove common design rather than common ancestry. Some of those observations are: 1. Comparative anatomy, the study of differences and similarities between living things. 2. Embryology and development, how creatures develop before being born or hatching from an egg. 3. Fossil record. 4. DNA similarities, the molecules that carry the codes with the characteristics of living things. If we apply these 4 categories of evidence on hippos and whales, we find that the anatomy of a whale and a hippo are similar. They both have smooth skin, lungs, internal testicles, etc. The development stages of both whales and hippos' embryos look similar. There are also fossils showing transitional animals that are similar to whales, yet with legs as hippos. And finally, the DNAs of both hippos and whales are closely similar. Neo-Darwinism concludes that all this evidence points to a common ancestor between whales and hippos. While all of this is true, the same evidence can also support common design and intelligent design as much as common ancestry and evolution. Take, for instance, cars. If we apply the same evidence for a BMW and a Toyota, we would reach the conclusion that both brands descend from a common ancestor car, but they obviously don't. When considering comparative anatomy, both BMWs and Toyotas have 4 wheels, an engine, doors, windshield, and a trunk. When considering development, the production of both a BMW and a Toyota is similar. When considering the scrap metal of both a BMW and a Toyota, they look the same, as we can find scrap wheels, engines, brakes, and steering wheels. And when considering the structural similarities, both cars are built from more or less the same components. But someone might say that we have seen cars being designed before, so when we see a car on the street, we can conclude that it was designed based on prior observation. But that doesn't apply to living organisms because we haven't seen anyone create them. Well, recognizing design doesn't really necessitate that you have seen the designer in action or have a preceding observation of the production process. Scientists like Newton and Kepler have recognized design in the way planets are orbiting the sun without having seen a designer. When you see writing on the sand along the seashore, it is reasonable to assume that someone has written it, not ocean waves, even if you haven't seen any person writing on sand before. Another possible objection is that the car analogy is false, because cars don't have mechanisms to evolve like living organisms do. Living organisms have mechanisms to evolve, which are mutations and natural selection. According to Neo-Darwinism, these mechanisms explain the vast variation in living things that we have today. Well, both natural selection and mutations are not sufficient to explain biodiversity. Natural selection is a process where the fit enough for the surrounding natural conditions survives. Therefore, the characteristics that nature selects already exist in the genes of existing living things. Natural selection cannot add any new characteristics to our genes. It just selects from existing characteristics. It is a process of elimination. When it comes to mutations, they are mostly neutral or harmful. They are also as random as ocean waves. If you find it hard to believe that trillions of ocean waves can eventually produce an essay on the sand of the seashore, then you might as well doubt that mutations can lead to DNA or biodiversity.